You ever notice how self-sabotage is the only crime where the victim and the villain are the exact same person? Think about that for a second. In the world of weight loss, we're constantly telling ourselves this high drama story where we're at once the hero trying to succeed and also this secret villain lurking in the shadows, plotting to destroy everything we've built. Today, I want to really challenge that idea. In fact, I want to completely dismantle it. And I'm going to be honest, this might trigger some of you because we've been using self sabotage as a catch all excuse for years. But if we look closely at what's really happening inside our body and our brain, we'll discover something much more interesting. Most of us aren't sabotaging ourselves at all. We're actually defending. For years in my coaching, back when I used to run the 21-day challenges, I used to have this lesson I'd give about self-sabotage. I would draw this picture of a guy who was in his driveway or in a car or whatever, holding this giant medieval sword. And I'd draw him just like furiously popping all of his tires. Pop, pop, pop. So imagine now this guy's your neighbor and you walked outside to grab your mail and you saw him doing that. You wouldn't think like, oh, wow, Steve is like really sabotaging his morning commute. No, you'd be like, something is very, very wrong with Steve. He needs some help. We should probably call for help. But that is the exact story that we tell about ourselves when it comes to losing weight, eating healthy, all that. I was doing great for 3 weeks and then I sabotaged myself. We talk about our own behavior like we're standing in the driveway with some sword, intentionally destroying our own progress for no reason. It is so dramatic. But here's the truth. Our biology doesn't do drama. It doesn't have villains. That would be absurd. Our body is a masterpiece of biology, of survival. It has zero interest in intentional destruction, quite the opposite. But when we use that dramatic language, I sabotaged myself, the whole experience of weight loss becomes catastrophic. It turns a biological event into a moral failure. What looks like a guy with a sword is usually just a nervous system that's been pushed too far, too many times. Sabotage is a scary story that we tell, but defense is just boring, normal biology. And I know what you're thinking. No, Sherry, I definitely do this. You don't understand me. I do things I don't want to do, even when I know I want to lose weight. Like, I hear you. But that's not a secret person inside of you trying to ruin your life or, there's something wrong with you. Self-sabotage is just the story that we've learned to tell when our biology finally overrides our willpower. You're listening to the Setpoint Science podcast, the science behind how your body and brain regulate weight for good. I'm your host, Sherry Alberts, and today we're talking about one of the most misunderstood ideas in weight loss, self-sabotage. In the last episode, we talked about weight defense. Today, we're talking about the moment when that defense shows up and we mislabel it as sabotage, and then how you actually stop it for good. Okay. If you've ever followed a plan perfectly for like 3 weeks and then out of nowhere found yourself standing in the kitchen eating the very thing you said you wouldn't, this is for you. Maybe you felt a wave of hunger craving so intense it felt completely irrational, like your brain was hijacked by a different version of yourself. You find yourself thinking, I don't know why I do this to myself, or why do I keep sabotaging my own success? From the outside, it really does look like you're ruining your progress. You had the plan, you cared about the goal, and then something inside of you just overrode all of that, and you forgot about what you were even doing in the first place. Here's the shift that I want you to make. This isn't a character flaw. What you're calling self-sabotage is actually just a misinterpretation of your body's survival system doing its job. We need to call this what it actually is. Self-sabotage isn't a character flaw. It's a total misinterpretation of the biological defense. So when we say, I'm sabotaging myself, we imagine this tiny malicious version of ourselves inside of our heads actively working against our own goals. We treat it like a moral failure. But in Setpoint Science, we look at that exact same behavior and see, a strategic rescue mission. Your brain isn't trying to fail the diet. It's trying to save the dieter. Think of it like a mutiny on a ship. You, the captain of the ship, we're talking your prefrontal cortex here, have decided to cut the rations to reach the destination faster. But eventually, the crew, your hypothalamus, the limbic system, it gets hungry, it gets tired, it gets scared. They don't care about your goal weight or getting there faster. They care about not starving to death. So they storm the deck and they take the keys to the galley. It's not sabotage of the mission. It's a survival override. When your logical plans for restriction conflict with your brain's ancient survival mandate, survival wins every single time. Not because you're weak, but because that system evolved over millions of years to keep us alive at all costs. It's just doing its job. You didn't mess up. Your system just successfully outmaneuvered a threat. Now, to really understand why the sword in the driveway story is wrong, we have to look at the actual math of our brain. As we talked about in the last episode, our body has a defended weight range, a set point. It isn't just a number, it's a biological mandate, as we said. When our food intake becomes really unpredictable, fasting, binging or heavily restricted, or everything is just like super stressful, the brain doesn't think, oh, she's just trying to look good for that wedding, or this would be great for her when she's 85 and she's stayed slim this whole time. No, it interprets that data as a potential famine. Specifically, the hypothalamus, like we talk about a lot, which is the energy regulation center, it senses the drop in energy and it hits that panic button. This is where sabotage looks like it starts. The brain is starting this strategic rescue mission. It increases hunger signals, so it becomes almost impossible to ignore, cranks up your reward response, making that specific food that you're thinking about avoiding look like the only thing that can save you in this moment. It sharpens your cravings into what looks like an obsession. It lowers your energy expenditure to conserve what you have left. So think of it as this like two-system conflict. You have your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that holds your long-term goals, the why, your logic. And then you have your hypothalamus and the limbic system, the parts responsible for survival regulation. So when those two systems go to war, especially after years and years of dieting, the survival instinct is going to win every time. Not because you're weak, but because that system evolved so long just to prioritize keeping you alive over keeping you thin. The brain isn't sabotaging that goal. It's prioritizing your survival. For now, I want you to see this override as a victory of biology, not a failure of character. But listen, all right, you're sitting there thinking, okay, Sherry, I get it. It's not sabotage, fine, it's defense. But how do I actually stop the rescue mission and get to lose weight? I've put together a resource called the Gentle Weight Loss Guide. It's a PDF designed to help you step out of weight defense and start being able to identify the specific threat signals that your system is responding to. This guide is the first step towards disarming weight defense. It's where we move from the theory of biology to the practice of building the stability your nervous system actually needs to feel safe. You can grab your copy right now at setpointscience.com/podcast guide. Now, this isn't about the kitchen. This is a pattern in how we humans interpret our own behavior across the board. We have this habit of assigning moral failure to what's actually just a biological safety response. So, for instance, think of productivity. When you procrastinate on a high-stakes project, you label it sabotage, or I'm just lazy, or I'm a procrastinator. But often your brain is just trying to avoid a perceived threat or the sheer weight of overwhelm. It's trying to keep you safe from the stress. Or we can look at relationships. So people withdraw, start picking fights, and then they'll call it relationship sabotage. But many times it's just a nervous system responding to the risk of vulnerability. It's trying to pull you back to the place where it feels safe. Even ambition, when you delay starting something important and call it lack of drive, it's usually just fear protection. See, in every one of these cases, you don't have a willpower problem. This isn't morals, nothing wrong with you. It's not character. You have a system that's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Your brain isn't trying to fail a mission. It's trying to save the person running it. So in the world of set point science, that saboteur doesn't exist. So let's put this into a real life scenario. One I know that most of us have experienced like 1,000 times. So imagine it's Friday night. We spent the last 5 days being perfect. We stayed busy. We kept on the plan. We hit our numbers. We gritted our teeth. We forced through it, through every craving. But then, of course, Friday comes. Stress of the week catches up, and suddenly we're 3 helpings deep into something we said a few days ago that we wouldn't be having. So immediately that old programming, that dramatic story starts playing in our head. Oh, I ruined everything. I can't trust myself. I'm this sabotage person. I'm a saboteur. So then you reach for that medieval sword and you start popping your car tires before the meal's even over. But let's look at what the system actually experienced. It didn't experience a failure of will. It experienced 5 days of perceived famine. It felt the mounting pressure of your goal, the one that you were trying to force towards, and the uncertainty of when the next emergency might start. And I want to say this for those of us who are 40 plus. Maybe in our 20s, this forceful stuff works. But when we get older, it works less. Notice? So the more we've done this, the more our brain has learned, I can't really trust this person. There's going to be a famine coming up again. The brain doesn't mess up the diet. It just successfully stages this strategic rescue mission and carries it out to protect you from the scarcity that you were imposing on it. So the behavior makes perfect sense the moment you stop looking for your character flaws and judgments, and we start just looking at the survival of biology. We didn't sabotage our goals. Our bodies simply outmaneuvered a threat. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube or catching it on social media, I'm really curious about what your version of the sword looks like. So when you've used that word self-sabotage in the past, what were you actually looking at? Was it food? Was it your productivity? Or was it a relationship where you suddenly hit the brakes? Something like that. Let me know in the comment section what those moments feel like to you. And now that you know it wasn't actually a villain with a sword, but a system trying to save the person running the show, let me know what you think. Okay, here's the shift I want you to make today. You were taught this meant that you lack discipline, that you get in your own way, and that you're the architect of your own failure. Very dramatic. But what it actually signals is that your body believes resources are unstable, period. Just simply activating a defense to protect you from a famine or a threat, not sabotage, protection. Now, when you stop calling these moments sabotage and we change that internal feeling of what's happening to us, the drama dies down and the shame starts to dissolve. And this takes some practice. Each time we do it, we reframe. Oh, that wasn't self-sabotage. I was actually just right. So remember what we established in the last episode. Pressure equals threat. Threat activates defense. So by changing the story that we're telling ourselves over time about our behavior, about our character, we're actually changing the signals that our brain receives. Less threat, calmer interpretation. It helps our entire system settle down. I want to be very clear. I'm not suggesting that we just positive think our way out of this biological override, because the question is, well, how do we actually overcome this? So if our hypothalamus has decided that it's time to eat, no amount of mindset work is going to stop that rescue mission, right? We're probably familiar with that. Changing the language from sabotage to defense isn't the full solution. It's just the ceasefire. So when we call it sabotage, we add shame. Shame is that high voltage stressor. By dropping the sabotage story, we're not fixing our biology. We're just simply stopping ourselves from throwing more fuel on that fire. Now, here's the real work. Okay, so we start with the mindset stuff. We start by working on that. But the real work is the work that actually makes the weight move and stay moved. It's about changing the data that our brain receives, not just the mindset stuff. You don't need to be talked out of what's happening. You actually need a disarmament strategy, meaning we need to be able to disarm this weight defense mechanism that's kicked in. So we need to address the actual triggers that convinced our brain to go on that rescue mission, that convinced our brain it was necessary. So we're going to disarm that. Now, here's a few ways that we can do that. Check in. Is our fuel gauge hitting E all the time? How many times have we, said, oh, I'm just going to finish this project and then I'll eat. If we do this day after day after day after day, we're just creating more concern in the system. Do we have erratic eating? Is there a threat loop because of chronic stress, perhaps? And I want to mention chronic stress, like there might be stressors in our life, but what matters is how we deal with them, how we perceive them. So we want to work on the way that we react to life. Is our environment constantly screaming famine, even though we're maybe surrounded by food? So this is the difference between yelling at a smoke alarm and actually putting out the fire. We don't just change how we talk about the behavior. We change the environment and the rhythm of our lives so the behavior is no longer biologically required. This is exactly why I created the Gentle Weight Loss Guide. It's not a book of new thoughts. It's a tactical PDF actually designed to help you identify where those famine signals are coming from so we can start giving our system the data it needs to feel safe. You can grab that at setpointscience.com/podcast guide. And if you're ready to fully stop this guessing game and follow a proven framework for disarmament, join us in Set Point Restore. I have been coaching these concepts for over 5 years now with hundreds of private clients, thousands of group coaching clients. And in Restore, we don't just think differently. We build the physical infrastructure of rhythm, predictability, adequate nourishment. It allows your body and your brain, the defenses, to finally stand down. Stop being the villain in a story that doesn't even exist. Hey, if this episode clarified something for you, I would really love a rating or a short review. It helps other women like you find this work, and I don't run ads right now, so word of mouth really matters to reach that woman who's struggling. All right, thanks for listening to the Set Point Science podcast, and until next time, don't fight your body. Disarm what's protecting it.